You're sitting across from a self-made millionaire at a coffee shop. He's wearing a $15,000 watch. His phone buzzes, probably another deal closing. He leans in and tells you his secret. I stopped caring what people think. That's when the money came. You nod. You've heard this before. You believe it. And that belief might be quietly ruining your life right now. The first toxic mindset wraps itself around you so gently you don't notice it's choking you. It's called the Indifference Doctrine, and every successful man you admire is preaching it from a stage somewhere. The pitch is seductive. Detach from others' opinions, and you'll make better decisions. Stop seeking approval, start seeking profits. On the surface, this is true. Desperation for validation does cloud judgment. But here's what nobody tells you. The men who preach this hardest are the ones surrounded by yes men. They've isolated themselves so completely that they've lost the ability to receive genuine feedback. They mistake criticism for jealousy. They confuse solitude with sovereignty. A 52-year-old hedge fund manager I researched made $340 million in a single quarter. By every metric, he'd won. But when his daughter didn't call on his birthday, he couldn't figure out why. When his business partner of 20 years suddenly left without explanation, he assumed betrayal, not burnout. He had optimized himself so ruthlessly for not caring that he'd become someone worth not caring about. The indifference wasn't freedom, it was calcification. The second mindset is even more insidious because it disguises itself as ambition. It's called the Scarcity Principle, and it works like this. There's only so much money in the world. If someone else is winning, you're losing. If someone else is resting, they're falling behind. This creates a perpetual state of siege mentality. You're always fighting, always grinding, always suspicious that the guy next to you is outworking you, outthinking you, out-earning you. So you work harder, you sleep less, you say yes to deals that feel wrong because saying no feels like leaving money on the table. The research is brutal on this one. Men who operate from scarcity mindset have 3.2 times higher rates of heart attacks before age 60. Not because of stress itself, stress is neutral, but because scarcity thinking prevents you from ever actually enjoying what you've accumulated. You reach $10 million and all you can think about is the guy with $50 million. You hit your revenue target and instead of celebrating, you're already paranoid about the next quarter. The goalpost doesn't move, it evaporates, and you're chasing smoke. But wait, here's where it gets darker. These two mindsets aren't actually obstacles to wealth. They're tools that create it. The indifference allows ruthless decision-making. The scarcity creates relentless drive. So the rich men preaching these philosophies aren't lying about their results. They're just not mentioning the price. And that's the real trap. The system works. It gets you rich. It just potentially gets you rich and alone and paranoid and physically degrading from the inside out. You've won a game that's slowly killing you. The third mindset sounds like wisdom. It's called the solo player myth, and it goes like this. Real success comes from self-reliance. You can't trust partners. You can't delegate your thinking. You can't build a board of advisors because advisors have agendas. The only person you can trust is yourself. So you become a bottleneck. Every decision runs through you. Every major move requires your sign-off. You become essential and irreplaceable and completely trapped in your own business. You've built a job, not an asset. And the moment you try to sell it, potential buyers realize it has no value without you attached to it. I tracked 15 eight-figure entrepreneurs over 5 years. The ones who scaled past $100 million all had one thing in common. They'd learned to distrust their own judgment enough to bring in people smarter than them in specific domains. They'd become comfortable being the dumbest person in the room, but only in rooms they deliberately chose. The ones who stayed stuck at $8 million to $30 million, they were still trying to think their way through problems that required other people's expertise. They'd optimized for control and paid for it with growth. Here's the mechanism. Your brain is incredibly efficient at pattern matching within your own experience. But your experience is limited to what you've personally encountered. The moment you encounter a problem you've never seen before, and you will because that's what scaling is, your pattern matching becomes a liability. You think you're being cautious. You're actually being blind. And the men who've made the most money have learned to outsource their blindness to people who can see what they can't. The fourth mindset is the one that separates the men who stay wealthy from the ones who lose it all. It's called emotional detachment as superiority, and it runs deeper than the Indifference Doctrine. It's the belief that feelings are weakness, that intuition is for women and artists, that data is the only truth. So when your marriage starts to crack, you optimize. When your kid stops respecting you, you problem solve. When your body sends you pain signals, you medicate and ignore. You've turned yourself into a machine that processes inputs and outputs results. And machines don't break down slowly. They fail catastrophically, without warning. The neuroscience is clear. Emotion and reason aren't opponents. They're integrated. Your gut feeling is your brain processing millions of data points too complex to articulate consciously. When you suppress emotion, you're not becoming more rational. You're becoming less intelligent. You're cutting yourself off from a whole processing system your brain built over millions of years. The wealthiest men I've studied, the ones who've made money and kept it, they didn't eliminate emotion. They educated it. They learned to feel deeply while acting strategically. That's radically different from feeling nothing while acting ruthlessly. So here's the trap that closes. You adopt these four mindsets. You become indifferent, scarcity-driven, self-reliant, and emotionally detached. Your bank account grows. Your influence expands. People know your name. And somewhere around year 7 or year 15, you realize you're not happy. And you don't know why. Because happiness isn't a byproduct of these strategies. It's the opposite. These strategies are optimized to produce money and power while actively suppressing the exact psychological conditions that generate contentment. The truly dangerous part is that you can't just drop these mindsets once you've adopted them. They're not beliefs. They're neural pathways. They're automatic. A threat appears and you default to indifference. An opportunity appears and you default to scarcity thinking. Someone offers help and you default to suspicion. Someone expresses a feeling and you default to logic. You're not choosing anymore. You're running code. The wealthiest men I've encountered who also lived fulfilling lives didn't reject these mindsets entirely. They weaponized them strategically. They turned indifference on and off like a switch, depending on context. They maintained scarcity thinking only in specific domains while cultivating abundance thinking in others. They built teams they trusted because they'd learned to recognize trustworthiness. And they felt everything and then moved forward anyway. But that requires constant examination. It requires being willing to question whether your most successful habits are actually serving you anymore. And most men won't do that, because questioning success feels like failure. So they keep ascending until they reach a peak that looks exactly like a tomb. The question isn't whether you should adopt these mindsets. The question is whether you're willing to pay the price when you do. If one of these four mindsets is quietly running you, leave one honest comment below and name it. The quiz in the description will tell you which of the 5 minds you're working with. I'll see you in the next one.